Starting off Generation 3 with a bang, for me. Trico is a ballsy thing. Apparently if a bigger foe were to glare at it would glare right back without backing down. But ultimately, it's a 5 kilogram gecko. I'm gonna slam his fucking head into the ground. Now moving on, this absolute peak of middle stage evolution design is more of a challenge than its predecessor. It's got incredible talent at running, and is apparently quick as fuck, and has some thick thighs for jumps and therefore kicks. Size is still on my side though, so it's close. And finally, kicking off my first loss of this gen is Sceptile. The madman with swords on his wrist is able to cut down thick trees and is agile as shit, so combine those two things and I'm in worse shape than a rounded triangle. I win against Trico, Grovyle is a fair fight, and I lose against a Sceptile. This is my favourite generation. Fire Pokemon are the bane of my existence, just after Steel types. Torchic, this little chicken with no arms, can shoot 1000 degrees Celsius flames. Now, despite how dead I might sound, Torchic's still bad at walking and has no means of defence other than that fire. But if it misses, oh boy, lunch has cooked itself. And now you think because of its small size that Combusken would be a somewhat decent but not incredible opponent. But I got unlucky, and they mentioned not only its super hot fire spitting, but they also included its thunder thighs taking lives. It can dole out 10 kicks in 1 second, and the kicks are outstandingly destructive, so I'm shafted here. And moving on to Blaziken, I never had a doubt in my mind that I would lose this. The big flaming chicken is actually 6 foot 3 inches tall, meaning it clears my height pretty comfortably. It can clear a 30-story building in one jump with its powerful legs, and to top it all off, it has flaming punches because of the fire in its wrists. Torchic is a fair fight, and I lose against Combusken and Blaziken. Before I start talking about these guys, just know that they're my favourite Pokemon and I would simply kill myself first so that I didn't have to fight them. Anyways, Mudkip is reported as being able to crush and carry boulders, which sounds bad, but until I get confirmation on the size of these boulders, I can't make any serious judgments, so for now, I'm just going to assume it has the power to at least break my bones, and I'll call it even. Now, Marshtomp has some unhelpful entries, but it tells us that it's better at travelling through mud than water, and that it has sturdy legs. I think with both of those characteristics and a lack of much else, I'll have to call it a fair fight. And as well as being the greatest Pokemon ever conceived and created, Swampert is gonna fucking kill me. With the ability to easily drag things weighing more than a ton and being able to destroy a boulder in one swing, this incredibly handsome, muddy boy is gonna win easy. Mudkip and Marshtomp are fair fights, and I lose against a Swampert. I assumed Poochyena would be somewhat of a threat, and I was wrong. Very wrong. It is teensy tiny, and a massive bitch. It acts all scary, but as soon as you start swinging and stop running, it switches up faster than Italy in 1943. So really it just becomes a small dog after that, and I could fuck up a small dog. Mightyena, however, is a much bigger, much scarier dog. Standing at a height that would make the average wolf cream himself, Mightyena has a massive advantage over me. 3 foot might not seem a lot, but when you're talking about 4-legged animals, it's pretty shitty. Combined with the claws and fangs, I'm in an awful situation, with the faintest glimmer of hope being that I punch it in a bad part of its skull and it dies before it rips me into a million pieces. I win against Poochyena and Mightyena has the advantage. Aww, what a lovely little fella. It's gonna die, but still. What a guy. Zigzagoon is built like a bag of milk and will go down easy. Sure, it's got claws, but they've only got small ones, and being just over a foot tall means I have a huge size advantage. But just look at that bristly tail. This one's for you, Goose. I would swing that bastard into a fence and kill it immediately. Moving on, and Linoone is a surprisingly deadly Pokemon with much sharper claws and the ability to run 60 miles an hour for some reason. Linoone sounds like an efficient killer, if it weren't for one glaring issue. The dude can't turn to save his life. The Dex points out on multiple occasions that it has to come to a screeching halt before it can turn, so literally just move out of the way and that whole 60 mile an hour thing is no longer a problem. However, I still have to get in close to finish it off, so I'd say we're about even. I win against Zigzagoon, and Linoone is a fair fight. Wurmple is big for a caterpillar. However, it's a fucking caterpillar. I don't care if it'll poke you with spikes and leak poison out of them, or if it has sticky webs that slow you down. I love the little man, but come on, give me some credit. He's getting smashed, mate. I'm gonna fuck him up. I don't want to, but I will. I win against a Wurmple. Silcoon is a free win. The dude literally can't do anything. It can repel attacks with its hard shell, sure, but I'm just going to relentlessly beat the shit out of him until it caves his stupid head in. It's not much of a challenge, but I honestly wasn't expecting one either. And now with Beautifly, I've always found it quite funny, because according to the Dex, Beautifly is a massive asshole with an aggressive nature, and it has no problem stabbing me with its long, thin proboscis. However, much like with its caterpillar offspring, I'm not giving it the advantage. It's a fucking butterfly. A big ass butterfly, but a butterfly nonetheless. I'm not going to say it has no chance because it's vicious and angry, and anger could make a butterfly scary. It's just no Beedrill. So I win against Silcoon and I have the advantage over Beautifly. I've never felt particularly threatened by Cascoon, except maybe because of the eyes, but reading its entries, this dude holds a mean grudge. It can't move while in the cocoon because if it did, it would be weak when it evolved, so it just has to take the hits. But it apparently never forgets a face, so if I don't kill it, I'm going to be hunted down once it grows its wings. But luckily, it is kinda easy pickings for a creature like a human, so I should be fine, honestly. Dustox, however, is on a path to give the Wurmple line some credibility by scattering toxic dust and powder with every flap of its wings. Supposedly, this powder is potent enough to make a pro wrestler sick, and I am nowhere near the build of a pro wrestler, so I'd be in bad condition. So unless I just cover my nose, mouth, and eyes, then run and start swinging and get a lucky hit in, I'm pretty fucked. But that plan is still on the table. I win against Cascoon, and Dustox has the advantage. I don't know if in real life I could bring myself to harm this thoughtless little creature, but unfortunately I gotta, and in a 1v1 I would absolutely tear a Lotad to shreds. I'd float his body down the river as a nice memorial though, to a fallen soldier. Now Lombre is much bigger than Lotad and has actual limbs, not just nubs. However, my luck still isn't changing because all this dude does is piss off fishermen and be happy. Good for him, but like, he's gonna get fucking annihilated. And call me Andrea Bocelli, I think, because the only song Ludicolo is gonna be hearing is Time to Say Goodbye. It's somewhat human-sized and quite thick, but also all it does is dance. The dude's a fucking machine on the dance floor, but in the battlefield, he's a pigeon with no wings or legs. I'd crush this duck man. I win against Lotad, Lombre, and Ludicolo. He is a fucking acorn. I'm gonna win, I'm sorry. I'm gonna boot his ass across the universe and then stand on him till he crunches. And luckily for me, Nuzleaf has the classic Saiyan weakness of, I gotta grab this motherfucker and then I'm good. Pinocchio over here has a big ass nose, and as soon as you got a grasp on his shitty air receptacle, he is powerless. So I should be fine. Lastly, I thought I was on track for another clean sweep, but then Game Freak just told me to go fuck myself, and now I'm facing down a mind-reading, house-destroying, tree-surfing dickhead. My chances are slim, and by slim, I mean they don't exist. I win against Seedot and Nuzleaf, and I lose against Shiftry. Apparently, Talo is a brave dude, and he'll take on even the toughest of foes, including Skarmory. But Talo didn't account for one thing. I was trained by Ozzy Osbourne himself, and I will bite this 2-kilogram asshole's head off. Easy peasy, Talo is squeezy. Now there are many things that Swellow has going for it. The flying, the sharp talons and beak, the worst case of fuck me eyes I've ever seen. However, it's still quite small and light. But while it never misses its target when it's diving to grab you, once it does grab me, all I have to do is give its head a quick twistaroo before it drops me from 400 feet in the air. It could still get me though and just scratch me to death. I win against Talo, and Swellow is a fair fight. I love this little seagull dude, but let's be honest, he's effectively a shoelace with eyes. It's the first bird Pokemon that has its hollow bones mentioned, and give me some credit, I could literally rip this dude in half. Most people could. Look at him, he's just a fucking seagull. And now Toilet Bird over here is more of a challenge, but only because he's physically quite large. He has no apparent advantage over me due to having any moves or insane capabilities. It's just a big fucking bird. So I'll give it a chance, but I can't cut the poopy pelican too much slack. I win against Wingull and have the advantage over Pelipper. Ralts has the ability to sense the emotional disposition of people and Pokemon. It hides if it senses hostility. If Ralts met me, poor little thing must just be seeing this. It stands very little chance. Just kidding, it stands none. I would pull its stupid little hat off and then eat cereal out of it. Curly is actually kind of buff for a middle stage evolution. It can see into the future, because of course it can. It can distort the space around it to create mirages and illusions, and if that weren't enough, it actually has psychokinetic powers unlike a decent portion of psychic types in the dex. Combined with a highly developed brain, and it's got a pretty good chance, but once I get my hands on it, it's game over. And a reminder, everything in the dex is taken literally in this series. It can predict the future, okay, pretty neat. It can expend powerful psychokinetic power, not too bad. And it can create a small black hole. Game Freak, why do you do this shit to me? I'm just gonna die. I win against Ralts, Curly has the advantage, and I lose against Gardevoir. Not only is Surskit teensy small and very light, but it also brain-jaculates honey from the top of its head when it senses danger, so I get to kill this adorable little insect and feast on its ooey gooey liquid after the fight's over? Sounds like a win-win to me. Now moving on to Masquerain, and yeah, it can fly in any direction with its 4 wings, but supposedly if its wing eyes don't intimidate you into submission, this little man is piecing out of there ASAP. And since this fight doesn't end until somebody's dead, I take the victory here. I win against both Surskit and Masquerain. Fucking grass-type Pokemon and their shitty fucking poison. Shroomish is a mushroom and destroyed very easily, much like a mushroom. But Game Freak are assholes and just decide to throw in its ability to eject toxic spores from its head. It makes sense because he's a mushroom, but like, that's so unhelpful. Luckily for me, the spores just cause pain all over, but they don't sound fatal, so there's a chance Shroomish could overpoison me, but I don't see it happening when it's so frail. And just to add insult to injury, they gave Breloom these spores too. Unlike Shroomish, however, Breloom doesn't even need the spores. Its technique is equal to that of pro boxers, but it also says that it puts boxers to shame. With speedy footwork and virtually invisible punches and stretchy arms, all while being poisoned, I think it's safe to say that the grass kangaroo is coming out on top here. I have the advantage over Shroomish and I lose against the Breloom. Apparently this little guy's heart only beats once per minute. After I'm done with him, it's going to be 0. Slakoth has nothing going for it. He's not big, he's not heavy, he has no powers, abilities, nothing. He's just a lazy ass sloth. Now moving on to the biggest gap in similarity between 2 Pokemon of the same line, Vigoroth is simply built different. Incapable of sitting still, Vigoroth is pretty much a monster energy, came to life and started absorbing other monster energies. I'm not going to say I even have a chance, because if you combine claws and teeth with practically infinite energy and anger, it results in a very, very dangerous sloth. And finally, the big boss himself, the king of bling, the prince of passing out, the god of fucking killing shithead YouTubers, Slacking. This dude is canonically the laziest Pokemon, but if the Dex says it can exert horrifying power, he's gonna fucking eat me. I win against Slakoth, and I lose against both Vigoroth and Slacking. Nincada is a blind and tiny bug who cannot stand sunlight, which is where this fight takes place. Next. Coming to royally fuck my shit up is Ninjask. Now we all know his whole thing's that he's one speedy boy, but the Dex decided that they'd go overboard and make him so fast that he seems invisible. Combine that with the fact that he has visible claws, and we've got another Skarmory situation. Sure, one clean hit would probably put him down, but I'm just not landing a clean hit. Or any hit at all. Moving swiftly on to Shedinja, and this goes just about as strangely as you'd expect, and possibly more so. Basically, the Dex doesn't mention Wonder Guard, but it does mention that it flies without moving its wings, it doesn't breathe, and also that it's an empty shell with eyes and doesn't move. Even a twitch. Honestly, I don't know what to do here, so Shedinja is going into the what the fuck category just for him. I win against Nincada, I lose against Ninjask, and I against Shedinja. Now here's the thing about Whismur. It's gonna lose. There's no way that a Whismur wins this fight, but I think it'll do a shit ton of damage to me. It screams at volumes that cause almost all people pain, and it leaves you with an all-day headache. So like, I'll stomp it to death, but it might make my ears bleed and permanently alter my hearing. And guys, you wouldn't believe it, the Dex is finally trying to help me out. Apparently, after Loudred finishes shouting, it can't hear anything for a while, and this is considered a weak point. Guys, they're helping. They're finally... Fuck. And finally, like always, my luck doesn't get any better. Someone looked at this hippo loudspeaker and said, fuck it, this dude can shake the earth with his shout. And if the volume it takes to blow a house down would kill me, you best believe that the earthquake-spewing dinosaur man would end my life. I win against Whismur, and I lose against Loudred and Exploud. Makuhita is a big beefy boy, and will most definitely fuck my shit up. It trains non-stop, and has got a fucking Tonka tough body because of this. It slams itself repeatedly into thick trees, and snaps them with its sheer force. I can't snap trees in half, and I'm actually equal weight to Makuhita, so logically, his strength and weight is superior to mine, and if we both ran at each other, I'm the one getting flattened. Now moving on, and this enormous motherfucker can bitch slap a train off the rails while it's moving. It can snap a telephone pole in half with one punch, and it can send a 10-ton truck flying with one arm thrust. Do you all remember that fight between One Punch Man and that mosquito bitch? Do you all remember how that ended? That's literally me against Harayama. I lose against both Makuhita and Hariyama. I know Azurill has a very grabbable tail, but all I'm hearing is the fact that its tail is densely packed with nutrients. Can we invent a dish using Azurill? Is that morally sound? Either way, this poor mouse thing is gonna get hurled straight into the fucking stratosphere. I win against Azurill. Nosepass has always been a bit of an odd Pokemon. I mean, its nose is a magnet / compass, but ignoring that stuff, it's not actually as hopeless as it seems. It's rock type, which doesn't outright mean it's made of rocks, but look at him, that ain't skin. And also, it can apparently spin and drill into the ground in a split second when in danger, and its main method of attack, which is, it can drag your ass straight to it via magnetism. I'm not sure if that works on non-magnetic material, but it also uses this to drag metal things towards it to defend itself with. The chances of me running into a Nosepass covered in knives is low, but it could technically happen. I'm gonna say it because of the rock skin and its ability to fuck off underground. It's a fair fight. It's an 11kg cat, it does nothing else, I'm gonna fucking obliterate it from existence. It will be a stain on the bottom of my shoe and nothing more. And I mean, Delcatty is a big cat, but it's not a big cat, if you catch my drift. All its dex entries just talk about how it loves sleeping and has good fur. Well, I'm gonna put dirt in its eyes. This thing doesn't even stand a chance, because Game Freak wasn't even nice enough to give it claws. Maybe if it had a mean streak or something, I'd give it the benefit of the doubt, but it doesn't, so I won't. I win against both Skitty and Delcatty. My favourite little goblin boy is actually a decent fight, despite being slightly taller than the average meerkat. He has sharp claws for digging through soil, and that big shit-eating grin isn't just for show. Sableye's a parent's nightmare, cause this dude be eating fucking rocks. You don't fuck around with a rock-eating ghost goblin, so despite his very little size, he could definitely kill me, and is almost guaranteed to cause grievous bodily harm. I'm gonna say that Sableye is a fair fight. Mawile is a sort of 50-50 fight, where if I land any amount of solid hits on it, it's fucking DEAD dead. But if I get caught in their massive gnashers, then I will be the dead one. I always wondered why Mawile was part steel type, and it's because those jaws are actually steel horns that have been transformed. And apparently they can chew through iron beams, so yeah. If I hit them first, I win. If they grab me, they win. So for those reasons, I'm going to call it a fair fight. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, he is made of steel. But he's just a little guy, surely you can just throw him or something. Nope, this cute little bastard is not only made of steel, but he eats cars and can destroy a dump truck with a tackle. Moving on to Leiron, and he also has a steel body, and just to show off how strong it is, it just absolutely blasts its own body through boulders. So yeah, that's good for me. And Aggron is just a metal Tyranitar, honestly. He claims an entire mountain as his own territory, and will completely destroy your asshole if you get near its mountain. It can destroy thick iron sheets and will impale you to death with its horns. Also, it's fucking massive. I lose against all three of these big bastards. Meditite is cool and all, and mad respect for doing yoga and meditating and shit, but I'm not accepting a loss against this weird monkey creature. It's pretty much just a child that knows a bit of martial arts. I'm bigger, and I'm going to sit on it till it dies or something. It wouldn't be particularly hard. Medicham, however, has gained more than just peace of mind. It gained the power to predict your next move in a fight by doing yoga. Give me some of that shit. It's also able to attack back with a devastating blow, so it has a pretty good chance. But it is small, so if it were to land a hit, it would be pretty quick. I'm going to say I win against Meditite, and Medicham has the advantage. Electrike is one of those rare first stage Pokemon that actually has visible teeth or claws. It has fangs specifically, and can supposedly run faster than the eye can see, or at least follow. Combine that with its ability to shoot off sparks in the right conditions, and you have a pretty dangerous little man. But as with most small Pokemon, one good kick would be the catalyst of me winning the whole thing. Now Manectric is a massive fucking wolf with teeth and claws that is potentially capable of moving at the speed of lightning, which, in case you didn't know, is 270,000 miles an hour. So even without electric powers, I was going to lose. But just to rub alcohol filled with salt into the wound, it can drop lightning bolts and shoot sparks. I am mega fucked. Electrike is a fair fight, and I just die against a Manectric. Everyone I've ever met has an extreme love of Plusle or Minun and an extreme hatred for the other one. Personally, if I ever saw Plusle, it is on sight. This little yellow rat is getting exploded with one clean, venomous kick. It's going to be turned into a wall decoration and paint at the same time. I win against a Plusle. Minun is my baby, my little guy, he's super cute. It's unfortunate that we have to fight to the death, and I'll miss him when he's gone. For the sake of a quick clean death, I'll just hit his head with the classic DK forward smash and hope it explodes his head immediately. I sadly win against a Minun. Volbeat, with no word of a lie, is literally just a big firefly. No powers, no moves, no claws, no teeth, nothing. It's large for a firefly, but all I'd really have to do is give it a big bear hug and either just crush it to death or break its spine and then beat it up. It shouldn't be too hard, he is pretty shit. I win against a Volbeat. Illumise is literally just gender bent Volbeat. It does command the little simps though by smelling real good, but that's by the by. It does nothing and is actually smaller than Volbeat, so my chances increased with Illumise. If it didn't have a cool shiny, I'd probably hate it. I win against an Illumise. While Roselia is capable of shooting off sharp thorns as projectiles, it doesn't say that they contain any poison, so obviously I can't assume that they do. However, the spike on its head apparently does contain a vicious poison, so it does have the combo of shooting spikes and jabbing me with its head. Dangerous for sure, but it is small, and I mean it is much smaller than most things I fight. It's 1 foot tall and weighs 2 measly kilograms, so long as I'm able to just work through the sharp projectiles and don't touch its head, I should be able to one-shot pelt it into hell, but there's always a chance I fuck up, so I have the advantage against Roselia. The Dex is disrespecting my man here. They claim that all it can do is smell like super duper ultra mega ass while it's eating, and it can only eat things that are the same size as it. So considering I am much, much bigger, and am not a fish capable of being tricked into a creature's mouth, I have pretty much got Gulpin in the bag. Now this man is gonna fucking kill me. He's nearly the same height and weight as me and is able to digest anything. Apparently the only thing it can't digest is its own stomach. Combine this with the fact that it shoots a hideously toxic fluid from its paws, then you have a good 1-2 punch of reasons I'm gonna die. I win against Gulpin and I lose against Swallow. Okay, now hear me out. Carvanha can destroy steel ship hulls with its fangs, so obviously I'm screwed, right? But he's apparently a huge bitch when alone, and this is a 1v1. Ultra Sun and Sword both say that Carvanha simply will not attack prey when it's alone. But the question remains, if it knew it was going to die otherwise, would it not fight back? If we ignore the deep existential questions, it will more than likely fight back, leaving me little chance of a victory. Moving on, they pretty much just made Sharpedo a braver, bigger and stronger Carvanha. It moves at 75 miles an hour, which is incredibly bad for me, and is capable of crushing iron. It's actually bigger than me, so yeah, I am finished. Carvanha has the advantage, and I lose against the Sharpedo. Wailmer is a doofy fellow and likes to make people jump by spraying water at them harmlessly. It also enjoys bouncing around playfully like a ball. However, unlike a beach ball, Wailmer weighs in at a whopping 130 kilograms, and if it were to bounce on me, I would be promptly smushed, like an ant. And even if it didn't bounce on me immediately, it's still enormous and I couldn't really hurt it, so yeah. And Wailord is just straight up unfair. It's 47 foot long and weighs 300 kilos. I kid you not when I say I genuinely can't do anything to this fucking absolute unit. All he needs to do is just fall onto me and I'm gonna get liquefied. I lose against both of these big whale bastards. I thought I was going to get away with a win, or at least a fair fight against Numel, because it isn't made of fire, it just carries it around in its hump. However, Black 2, White 2 and Y have stated that its hump gets smaller when it uses fire type moves, so realistically, any fire move that Numel learns it can use in this fight. Numel learns Flamethrower, Overheat and Incinerate. I don't think I'm getting away with this, but it is small and apparently very stupid, so maybe. Now on to Camerupt, and not only is it bigger than me, but it's also heavier than a Wailmer, so I'd be shit out of luck already if it didn't spew lava that can melt literally any substance on the planet, including my skin, nerves, organs, and bones. I think it's safe to say that the fucking camel wins. Numel has the advantage, and I lose against a Camerupt. Torkoal is a handsome little man, and I wouldn't dream of hurting him. However, I don't have much of a choice, and he doesn't have very good defences despite being, you know, a fucking tortoise. As much as you'd expect the dex entries to talk about it shooting fire, they only mention it bellowing smoke, which might kill me about 20 years from now, but in a 1v1, it isn't very helpful for him. I'm going to say I win against a Torkoal. Spoink is a tragic tale. It's always bouncing because that's what keeps its heart pumping, and if it were to ever stop, it would just fucking die. So, here's my game plan. I'm going to hold him, and that's it. I hold Spoink, it has a heart attack, I win. And unlike Ludicolo, if Grumpig starts dancing, I should be very worried. The dude can apparently take over control of your body with its sick moves, like some sort of disco shikamaru, but if I rush it before it starts, then I can prevent it from grooving and promptly beat the shit out of it. I win against Spoink, and Grumpig is a fair fight. The Dizzy Panda is super duper cute, but unfortunately has about as much self-preservation as the average hamster. If it walks too much, it feels sick. It can't walk in a straight line. This dude is pretty much useless. However, it is said to avoid enemy attacks brilliantly. But unless those marshmallow arms are packing a hell of a punch, I'll get him eventually. I win against a Spinder. Trapinch is a funny little dude, and if it got its jaws on me, then I would be in major danger. But also, if I tip it on its back, I win. So this is sort of up in the air, and I would just have to avoid those boulder-crushing jaws to take the fight. Vibrava is a bit scarier than Trapinch, but not by a tremendous amount. It can fly short distances, that's not too bad, but it can also generate high frequency sound waves by rubbing its wings together, which gives a person a serious headache, and also it can spit acid, so I'm going to be generous and say that it has a pretty good chance. Now Flygon has been done absolutely dirty by the dex. No mention of it being strong, just how it can create sandstorms with its wings, but luckily I can do it some justice due to it having the ability to fly, and because it is physically larger than me and has claws. This shit is unfair for such a cool Pokemon. I have the advantage against Trapinch, and Vibrava and Flygon have the advantage against me. Despite being pretty small, Cacnea is actually quite heavy, probably because he's a fucking cactus. Combining that with how thick its arms are, and the fact that they're covered in thorns, then you have a recipe for a strong little man. It can also shoot thorns off of its body for some range, so I'm actually going to say that this is fair for us. I have the size and weight advantage, and he has the defenses and range. Fair play. Now Cacturne is bigger, heavier, and sharper. While it doesn't have the ability to shoot thorns anymore, it's now capable of throwing actual punches and running, which is all the more scarier. Imagine getting bear hugged by that. It would definitely fuck you up. However, I do still have the height and weight advantage, so I don't think I'm a lost cause in this fight. Cacnea is a fair fight, and Cacturne has the advantage. Swablu is literally a cotton bird, and it weighs just over a single kilogram. It has no strength, just an obsession with cleaning. The only cleaners Swablu is going to need after the fight is a forensic cleaner to get the blood off the floor. All of Altaria's entries talk about how beautiful its voice is and how kind it is, and then Shield had to come in and fuck it all up. Apparently, if it's provoked, it will let out a loud ass cry and then attack without mercy. And while it is still small, it has a beak and can fly as well, and has quite a lot of padding to help defend itself. So I'm going to say I win against Swablu, and Altaria is a fair fight. Zangoose is a 4-foot cat, ferret, mongoose thing with incredibly sharp claws and a shitty fucking temper. Those are not the eyes of something you want to fuck around with. Size and weight are all I've got, and I don't have very much confidence that I'd win. It's not impossible, but honestly, Zangoose scares me, so no matter how the fight turns out, I will be bleeding tremendously and potentially missing some very useful body parts. Zangoose has an incredible advantage over me. Unlike Zangoose, I have literally zero chance against a Seviper. It's a snake, so already it's going to be quick and hard to pin down, and Seviper is special because even if I pin his head down, he has a fucking sword on his ass, so either I have to deal with his comically large fangs or his butt blade, and both contain a deadly poison. Add on the fact that he's nearly 9 feet long, then I just get maliciously stabbed and poisoned to death. I lose against Seviper. Now, Lunatone is pretty odd because its whole thing can be boiled down to telekinesis rock, but it has its own odd nuances. Apparently, its red gaze can lull people to sleep, and I reckon if it puts me to sleep, it has two choices. Kill me by just slamming me into a wall with its psychic powers, or it could just ram its body into me and crush me to death because he weighs 168 kilos. Equally, even if I manage to stay awake, he's a 3-foot tall rock. What am I going to do to that? Spit on it? Regardless, I lose against the Lunatone. Orange Lunatone over here is quite similar to its moony counterpart. They both have the same level of psychic power, however Solrock does not put you to sleep, he instead spins like a fucking Beyblade and blinds you with the brightness of the sun. Oh, and also it's bigger and heavier than Lunatone, and is fully capable of impaling me or just breaking my bones to shreds with a few tackles. I lose against Solrock. Barboach is just a lubed up fish, honestly. All the dex talks about is how fucking gooey this dude is. He has no defense other than squirm like crazy and hopefully get away. But I will eventually tire it out, or land a lucky smack that dislodges its brain out of its skull. I'm not sure what to do with Whiscash. His very first dex entries talk about how he will fuck you up if you come near its territory, even causing an earthquake to get you. But in Legends Arceus it says that it causing tremors by smacking the ground with its fin was believed to be the cause of earthquakes. Despite that, it will apparently eat anything that is alive, and it can still cause vicious tremors. So I just don't want to fuck about with a big fish, honestly. I win against Barboach and Whiscash has the advantage. Corphish will never let go if it gets hold of you with its pincers, but the dude is so small and light that I'm pretty sure you could just blast his ass into the ground with a quick swing. Other than that, it just lives in shitholes, so not much to save it there. And as soon as Corphish evolves, it becomes a huge dick. I mean, this guy's apparently hard as fuck to raise and will fight just about anything. It'll even just launch things from its pond as a warning. If its pincers fall off, he becomes a huge bitch, but I'd have to be lucky enough not to get caught in them first, and he is aggressive, but he's a little small for me to guarantee the win for him. I win against Corphish, and Crawdaunt has the advantage. Okay, I love Baltoy, I think it's very cute, but he just spins. Literally. The dex exclusively talks about how it spins on its one foot, and how it makes loud noises when it sees other Baltoy. If I just kicked this dude, he would smash like a plate thrown at a wall. Now, this floating, beam-toting, psychic owl statue from the Aztec Empire is just a little bit fucking weird. The arms on its side, apparently capable of firing beams, which sucks, and it does have noted psychic powers and the ability to levitate. Add on the fact that it weighs over 100 kilos, and you've got a Pokemon that I don't feel like I can beat. I win against Baltoy, and I lose against Claydol. Lileep is quite small and really only has one method of catching you, and that's using the tentacles on its body. But I mean, what does it do once it gets you? We know it eats you, but does it have teeth? Does it swallow you whole and digest you with powerful acids? We don't know, and therefore I can't pass judgment, and also won't. And also, it's only a rock type because it used to be a fossil. It has fleshy flesh, like a human being. Now Cradily luckily answers those questions for us, but only for itself. It can stretch its neck and tentacles over 3 times its body length to snatch you up, and once it grabs you, it dissolves your body with strong digestive fluids. As well as that, it stands to reason that it could probably just bash your face in with its own face, since it has that much range, and probably one hell of a swing. I win against Lileep, and I lose against Cradily. Anorith is probably one of my favourite first stage fossil Pokemon, because honestly, I have a preference for little bug dudes, and that's what Anorith is. Those harsh red-eye patterns on the top of its head aren't fooling anyone. He's a sweetheart and about as dangerous as a lobster, with no legs, but hey, this is technically a sea creature, so he gets to do the weird levitating swim, which makes him more of a threat. Not much, but more. Now moving on to this piece of shit, and Armaldo is just a little bit more challenging. It is a bug dinosaur with armor so tough it makes all attacks bounce off, from 100 million years ago with the power to cut through almost anything, deliver devastating blows with its tail, and punch clean through a steel slab. How in God's name did this thing go extinct? And why did we bring it back? I have the advantage against Anorith, and I lose against Armaldo. I genuinely want you all to go and look at Feebas's dex entries, and just look at how they constantly massacre this poor fish. Ugly, slow, dim-witted, ignored, shabby, unpopular. It gets worse. Predators won't even eat them because they look like they taste bad. And just to make my life easier, it's apparently easy to catch. So I'm going to put this poor little dude out of his misery so he can stop being bullied. Now Milotic is obviously, along with Magikarp, the greatest Pokemon glow-up of all time. Incredibly beautiful, and unfortunately for me, devastatingly powerful. While it's not whipping up storms or creating diseases, it is 20 fucking feet long, which is only double the length of a fully grown boa constrictor. Combine that with its ability to make you stop being violent at just the sight of it, and it'll squeeze me to death till my head pops like a grape. I win against Feebas, and I lose against Milotic. I thought Castform might stand a chance because of its ability and the whole weather changing nonsense, but the Alolan Dex entries for its different forms can be summed up pretty easily as he's warm, he's wet, he's cold. No crazy skin melting or literal bone chilling, just a little warm boy. So despite my hoping for something, Castform's just going to get obliterated. I win against a Castform. Well, I thought I knew pretty much everything I could about Pokemon, but I learned something new here. Kecleon is able to blend into its surroundings, however, its zigzag pattern remains the same colour no matter what. So even if it tried to sneak up on me, it would just be a giant floating zigzag, and without the element of surprise, I don't really think it stands a chance. I do, however, want to point out that if Kecleon changes colours to blend in and you don't see it quick enough, it'll pout and refuse to reveal itself. Even though that's really funny, I'm still going to kill him, and I win against the Kecleon. All Shuppet does is eat up negative emotions like a Christmas dinner. Other than that, it doesn't have any bullshit evil ghost powers, and I should be fine to just steal its stupid little hood and strangle it to death. Also, it looks like a used napkin from SpongeBob. Now unfortunately, the Dex hasn't given me much choice in how this fight goes because they only say Bayonet has a propensity to curse people. Will a curse kill me? Who knows, but what that means is that I can't say for sure that I would lose here, so based solely on the fact that it looks evil as fuck, I'll say it at least has a chance. I win against a Shuppet, and I have the advantage against Bayonet. Duskull was a surefire win until Scarlet and Violet came out and said it eats your soul, but while I don't know specifically how the soul eating shit works, it seems to be tied to getting caught staring into its eye. Regardless of that, he is a small boy and wouldn't take much to permanently deal with, so combining the soul eating stuff and the fact that he's tiny, I'm gonna say it rounds out to a fair fight. Dusclops is much scarier though. Not only is it actually human sized, he also absorbs anything into his body, no matter the size, and once he's got you, that's it. You've been got. And while no one's ever been confirmed to die in there, no one's ever been seen again after being absorbed, and being trapped inside a bandage ghost is pretty much a loss regardless. Also, he can hypnotize you with his seductive hand movements. Duskull is a fair fight, and I lose against the Dusclops. While the funny banana dinosaur doesn't have any explicit methods of winning written in the Dex, it is, however, a 6'7", 100kg flying dinosaur. He could pick me up and just drop me from a great height. He could fly high in the air and fucking pile drive himself into my head. Equally, let's say I land a hit. Does this big motherfucker look like he would care? I would hit him, and then he would swing his neck like a golf club and break both of my legs. The second they gave this man wings, I had already lost. I lose against Atropius. Okay, I did not expect Chimecho to have Dex entries talking about how he can send people flying. This doesn't mean that he wins, just that despite all the odds being against this tiny, flimsy wind chime, he actually stands a chance. Okay, he can send me flying, but how far? Because if he can violently throw me across the horizon, then I'm fucked. But if it just tosses you a little bit away, I'll survive that unless I land on my head. And as soon as my hands make contact with this child, he's so dead. Based on all of this, I'm going to say that I have the advantage against Chimecho, verging on a fair fight. Much respect to this little man. According to Bulbapedia, Absol is based on a this, which obviously is Chinese myth and therefore impossible to compare to like a lion or something, so we're just going to go off of physical features. Absol is 3'11" and weighs 47 kilograms. This makes it much larger than the average hyena, and so I'll say that puts me in trouble. Combining its decent size with its claws and fucking huge horn, Absol's probably got this in the bag, but there's a very little chance, like 0.001%, that I land a lucky blow. But again, unlikely. Absol has a major advantage. I didn't expect Wynaut to live for even a second against me, because I mean, look at it. It's just a baby. However, the Dex mentions that it's able to dole out some powerful counterattacks, so every time I land a hit, it'll return that hit with roughly double the power. So while I don't think it will take many hits to take it out permanently, it will, surprisingly, fuck me up regardless. And if it hits me just right, oh boy, I could actually maybe lose. So I never thought I'd say this, but Wynaut is a fair fight. Snorunt is really good at withstanding extreme colds, but is it, I ask you, good at withstanding extreme shoes? Because this dude is just a triangle with a face. I'm going to crunch him to death even though I love him deeply. Now, reading the decks has honestly expanded my mind on some Pokemon, like Ice Satan over here. I didn't realise that it was made of rock and not ice, it just wears ice as hard as steel on its body as extra armour. Regardless, I can't destroy a nearly 5 foot tall ball of solid rock and ice, and that's even without the fact that it can freeze people solid and then he fucking eats you. How did Snorunt evolve into this dickhead? I win against Snorunt and I lose against a Glalie. I don't want to have to do it. I love this round boy more than I love this planet, but he is perfectly shaped for someone to pelt it, and to save you all the stress of having to do it, I'll do it for you. He's gonna die. Now, while Celio doesn't have proper legs and therefore I have the superior agility, it is capable of destroying ice with its flippers, so this fight boils down to I'll lose if it catches me, and I think that makes it fair. He's fat, he's round, he'll put you in the ground, it's Walrein. Shattering ice is impressive, but shattering 10-ton ice blocks with your teeth is just fucked up. Walrein would literally rip me a new asshole. I win against Spheal, Celio is a fair fight, and I lose against Walrein. If Clamperl was bigger, then I'd be in major trouble, because it's pretty much just an underwater Carnivine, but with its small size and no outward attacks, I just need to repeatedly throw it against something until eventually its shell smashes. Now Huntail's a weird one because he has no powers, he's just a fish, but also he's 5 foot long and has sharp teeth that it uses to eat prey, meaning it is good at killing things, but like, would I lose to a fish or is this more of a shark type of deal? Either way, I genuinely don't know whether it's gonna lose or if I am, so I'm just gonna split it down the middle and call it fair. Why the fuck is this little mermaid reject the scariest one? The dex literally says that its body is unharmed by ordinary attacks and that it will stab you with its mouth and drink your insides. Now I wouldn't count slamming it against the floor or a wall as an ordinary attack, so I can kill it, but honestly, I'm terrified of this thing. I win against Clamperl, Huntail is a fair fight, and Gorbis has the advantage. Relicanth is the original old man Pokemon. This dude is fucking ancient and honestly just chills out at the bottom of the ocean. It has no teeth, lives off of microscopic organisms, and has tough scales and a lot of fat. I would struggle to kill it, but given enough time I win 99% of the time. I have the advantage over Relicanth. Luvdisc is fucked. Seriously, it's a little heartfish that gets sad and gives up if it's on its own, which it will be for this fight. I would win this fight even if it took place underwater. That's how weak Luvdisc is, and I can't even swim. I win against the Luvdisc. Bagon is the definition of an unsupervised child. In an attempt to fly, it practices every day by hurling itself off of fucking cliffs head first. Because it does this so often, its skull is fucking hard, and it can turn boulders to pebbles in a single headbutt. It also gets pissed off that it can't fly, and will go into an envious rage where it beats the shit out of everything. Also, apparently it's just a bundle of muscles. Now Shelgon isn't as active of a threat because it's a bit too heavy for it to move with any real athleticism. However, he's pretty much immortal. He's basically surrounded by iron and doesn't need food or water. Even the Dex doesn't know how the fuck he's alive. But that means that even if it just waited, I'd never break through the shell and he doesn't need food. This big motherfucker is up there with Tyranitar in terms of threats. It flies, breathes fire, and if you piss it off, it flies into an uncontrollable rage where it won't stop until you are dead and the surrounding area has been burned and shred to pieces. I lose against all three of these big fuckers. This metal dick is just a natural force. It barely counts as a living thing. It repels and attracts things and itself using magnetism, which lets it float and drag enemies closer to it. It doesn't have blood, just magnetic forces, and it'll rip you up with its ass hooks. Combining that with the fact he's made out of metal and weighs 95 kilograms, I'm pretty sure a few tackles would put me out for good. Who the fuck is writing the entries for these pseudo pricks? Can I win against Metang? Let me think. It fucking zooms around at 60 miles an hour, can stop you dead in your tracks with psychokinetic power, it can tear through iron as if it was silk, and if it got hit by a jet plane, it wouldn't even fucking care. So no, I can't beat a Metang. And now onto the psychic supercomputer robot that weighs over half a ton, and my luck, funnily enough, doesn't change. Metagross has psychic powers, sure, but honestly, it's so big and so heavy that it'll just sit on you, and then it will fucking eat you. Why do so many Gen 3 Pokemon want me as lunch? I lose against all three of these dudes. Regirock is made of rocks, so already my chances are slim, but it turns out He has neither a brain nor a heart, so really what can I do? And even if I was lucky enough to get a hit in, he literally just sticks rocks on himself to heal, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. Regirock would literally swat me away like a fly, and I would equally get splattered like one. I lose against Regirock. Well, Regice is, again, made of fucking ice, which isn't as bad as rocks, but I mean, I still can't do fuck all to it. And unlike Regirock, Regice wouldn't even need to lay a finger on me. It's apparently so cold that just being near it will freeze you completely solid, at which point it can totally have its way with you, however it wants. I lose against Regice. Same deal as with Regice and Regirock. Say it with me now. Registeel is made of fucking steel. But actually, not really. The deck says its body is harder than any kind of metal on Earth, and it's theorized that it's actually space metal, so I'll try my best to kill the giant iron space alien thing, but it's not looking too good for me, I'll be honest. I lose against a Registeel. Latias is quite short, doesn't weigh very much, and according to the decks has no explicit powers except being smart, sensing emotions, and being able to turn invisible. I'm letting it have flight because it's always seen flying, or at least floating, but in my eyes it's just not an obvious enough defeat. I think this is the first legend that would not be guaranteed to beat me, but I do still think Latias has a big advantage over me. Latios is like Latias, but it got bigger and told me to go fuck myself. This 6'7" monster can fly faster than a jet plane and is smart as hell. If this thing's so smart, it should realize that it hitting me at those speeds will 100% of the time result in a fatality. I lose against a Latios. Have you ever looked at a Pokemon and thought to yourself, God, I'm glad that doesn't exist? Me too. Kyogre is a 14-foot, 350-kilogram whale with the power to control water and flood the world. I want you to take a wild guess about how likely I am to win here. It doesn't say that Kyogre could eat me, but realistically, he totally fucking could. I lose against Kyogre. Groudon may be shorter than Kyogre, but he is 3 times heavier, coming in at a whopping 950 kilograms or over 2,000 pounds. This dude is beefy, and even without any powers of intense heat and being able to sleep in magma or whatever, this dude is just covered in spikes and claws. He would bat me away or just slice me clean in half. I lose against Groudon. Rayquaza is a 23-foot long missile dragon that flies about and eats meteors for fucking breakfast. It's also mentioned that it has the power to calm both Groudon and Kyogre down if the two are ever to fight. The problem isn't if it would kill me, obviously it would. The question is, would it bother to kill me? This dude literally only does anything if it thinks you're a threat to the world or nature. Since I am not personally a huge threat, I doubt it would bother, but for the sake of the video, I lose against Rayquaza. I know fighting Jirachi is very circumstantial, what with the only waking up once every 1,000 years thing, but for the sake of convenience, let's just say that Jirachi is awake. This thing doesn't stand much of a chance, really. I know what you're thinking. Steel and Psychic type, surely you can't beat that. But actually, its Steel type is a reference to a protective shell that envelops it when it's sleeping, and they just never mention it using Psychic powers. All Jirachi does is sleep and grant wishes, so basically I'll just be killing a baby, and for the very first time in Pokémon Fights history, I win against a legendary Pokémon, Jirachi. Deoxys is a super smart alien virus with psychic powers and the ability to use its chest like a fucking railgun. I don't stand a chance against this gangly boy or any of his other forms. Attack form would one-shot me, defense form would just beat me to death, and speed form would kill me before I even realized. I lose against Deoxys 4 times.